6 weeks after laying the polypropylene blanket, the Discovery Channel team returns to the test site.
Hey, welcome back!
It's time to see if the blankets have saved any ice.
So if this material works, what we're going to find is that the ice surrounding it will have melted down, and then the ice underneath it will be preserved.
In the last 24 hours, 15 centimeters of snow have fallen, burying the blankets.
Dig straight down here.
So there's a little suspense as the team digs for results.
Is this working even though there's snow on top of it right now?
Certainly, it's blocking the sun because the sun penetrates the snow slightly.
I've hit the glacier.
All right, there you are. Look at this wall of ice. Yeah, in just a few weeks, this is what we get.
You got that tape? Can you pull it back?
Looking like 2 feet.
That is amazing.
The blanket has preserved the snow and ice underneath, while the snow and ice around it have sunk almost 2/3 of a meter.
So this section of this glacier will continue to rise above the ice because it's just not melting anymore.
That's amazing. I'm really pleased about this. Check that out.
I was skeptical, but I'm a believer now.
That's 5,000 tons of ice we've saved from melting into liquid. That equates to the daily drinking water for 4 million people we've just saved in ice.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's 4 million.
The experiment is cause for guarded optimism. The blanket may have prevented the melt lake from collapsing, and it saved 2 acres of ice 61 centimeters thick. But that means everywhere else on the glacier lost roughly 2/3 of a meter. A staggering loss on an ice cap more than 3 times the size of Spain. There are many predictions about how fast Greenland's glaciers may disappear into the sea. But most experts agree if it should happen, the world's oceans will rise by 7 meters. If we can prevent that by covering Greenland with reflective blankets, shouldn't we seriously consider doing it? And what would it take? Covering just the melt zone of Greenland would mean manufacturing 771 million blankets at a cost of $400 billion. Add to that 31 million helicopter flights to get the job done. Cost $186 billion. Plus the wages for an army of laborers working in extreme Arctic conditions. In addition, the current plan would create an enormous carbon footprint. Deploying the blankets may save the ice in the short term, but it may also contribute to global warming to an unacceptable degree. Some in the scientific community are concerned this strategy could backfire if used on a large scale.
Just the energy consumed in going out there and covering such a huge area in these blankets. What happens to them over time? Do they melt out and then, cause some sort of environmental sort of issue in their own right?
Scientists thinking of crazy ideas in some ways is a wonderful thing. We have to continue to think outside the box, continue to imagine new ideas, but we have to understand that most of them are likely to never be commercially viable.
For Jason's plan to work, key technical and logistical challenges would have to be overcome, and low-carbon emission transportation developed. Until then, some scientists think the blankets could be used on a smaller scale. Around the world, water for drinking, farming, and hydroelectric power comes from mountain glaciers. If those glaciers melt, millions of people's lives will be threatened.
Many communities living around the Himalayan mountains depend on glacial meltwater for their irrigation water. And it might make sense to cover those glaciers with plastic to reduce the rate of melting so that they have a water resource on into the future.
In America, much of the drinking water for Southern California comes from glaciers, and those glaciers are disappearing as well.
The logistics are easier to do something in California than to do something in Greenland. It's just much smaller scale. So I think, yes, this is something which is worthwhile exploring.
Covering glaciers to prevent melting is treating one of the most dangerous symptoms of global warming. But it doesn't get at the root of the problem.
What it's doing is tackling the effects of climate change, whereas what we have to do is actually prevent catastrophic and serious climate change in the first place.
Jason agrees. Bud thinks we need to address the damage that's already been done.
We've already lost ground here. We need to regain the ground. We need to tackle this problem, and conservation alone isn't going to do it. We actually have to use geoengineering solutions as part of a portfolio response.
Each of us is a part of that response, because all of us together have become a force of nature. And we've fundamentally altered the planet. Now, most experts believe we have to change old habits of energy consumption and cut carbon emissions. We also have to explore new technologies to repair the damage we've already caused. Because one thing is sure, the planet will react to whatever we do to it. And we'll find without a doubt that nature is the ultimate geoengineer.
Bye.